First item on the agenda is the forward agenda, and I think Councillor Peake would add on there the rate arrears. Carol?
And can we also add rating of vacant land if it's not included in the motion? And Councillor Hammond had something to add.
Yes, I wanted to have maybe a briefing thing around the policy in regards to the rally cars, like maybe we need a policy around that or a briefing around that.
Just load them up. Keep going.
There's one other little briefing item I'd like to add in the future, maybe in regards to the use of the Manham Institute, just from understanding of when I looked at the fees and charges of what we're charging for non-for-profits and community groups to use it as a whole. I was just wondering, how does the Manham History Group fall under?
They've got a lease.
They've got a lease agreement, have they? Sorry, I wasn't just sure about that. That's just a question I had about, and they've
had that. Did we have that? Yeah.
I assume so. Back in the day, I'm not sure. Yeah, there was much debate over it. So
there was a lot of debate.
Okay, and we charge them a lease of like a peppercorn kind of vibe, right?
And us giving them the lease, they do things for us, store records, things like that. Yeah. So
okay.
That's the lease.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you.
Oh, that's it.
Over to Gary, who's going to talk about the Palmer Wind Farm.
Yeah, so thank you. It's just very quickly, the Tilt Renewables are establishing a consultative committee, and in the terms of reference that they've issued as part of the process is they've listed a whole host of members, which includes Mid-Murray Council / councillors. So I'm just putting it out there to ask whether any elected member has an interest to be on the Community Consultative Committee, because the expression of interest process is currently open. I am meeting with a representative of Tilt Renewables tomorrow, just talking more broadly about things, all things council. It'll be just worth, if you're interested, in putting a name forward.
Is it worth doing that before November?
Again, I think in terms of the term of council, you'd probably be for the term of council. I think going forward, you'd look at, having a representative for the new term of council. I think in terms as long as there's a representative to, be at the table for council.
I guess because I'm involved with the Tunkillo Progress Association and connection with the Tunkillo group of what's going on here, I'm happy to put my name in for the end of term of being on that consultative community group. But Mandy's also a representative of the Palmer group. So, I don't know whether you'd be interested too or how it would work if we wanted.
Gary, can I ask a question? Is it a representative of council or is it, because they're running this process, right?
Yeah, they are running this process, yeah. They just say Mid-Murray Council / councillors. So they're not specific.
Staff member.
So it could be a staff member too.
Uh-huh.
And, in my way of thinking, it'd be nice to probably have both.
Okay.
Having one lead. Their expression of interest closes soon. Sorry, I don't have the specific date of it. But I am catching up tomorrow.
There's the question, Gary, does council want to potentially put forward a representative, both from an elected member body and a staff perspective, which we could then communicate that, and then if we are going to do, I was going to say, what? I suppose from that perspective, it's whether it needs a formal resolution of council. Well, that's what I was going to say. If there's some guidance from council to say that there's an opportunity that we would like to do that, and then we would then have a report, and then we would do a formal.
But at least I can at least relay to Tilt tomorrow that we would look to put forward a nomination, and then bring a report to the July council meeting.
Is that what the elected members are thinking?
Yeah, because I think
one of each would be good.
Just bear in mind that there are 5 green energy companies, all of which are supposed to have consultative committees. So we just need to look at. I know, but what I'm saying, what if the others all say they want the same thing? Then we need to think carefully about how much commitment we want to give to them.
And part of hopefully the process, particularly with Tilt, Ibradola and Potentia, given that they are in the same geographical area, that they may look to how they can combine or work collaboratively. And obviously in our benefit sharing policy, which is out for additional consultation, the concept of a consultative committee is raised in that policy. So yeah, I think it might be that individual projects will want to start with their own individual consultative committees, particularly during the construction phase, given the specific issues for each project. But yeah, we just have to manage that expectation.
Because the construction phase is managed by one group, and the actual maintenance management phase is a different group of people altogether for each of them. So just raising the question that's quite a lot of commitment. If they all 5 asked for 1 or 2 representatives of council, that would be a big impost.
Yeah.
This committee, have they given an indication of how many times a year they would meet?
Yes. Somewhere there. It doesn't change the reference. I thought I read it somewhere. Quarterly.
Okay.
Not too bad. Yeah, so over the 2 years of construction, so quarterly.
And I can see the benefits during the construction phase because it will have a big impact on our ratepayers. But once it's in place, I'm not so convinced.
Yeah. I mean, these consultative committees are very typical of mining projects as well. And so some do go beyond construction because obviously, ongoing mining activity. Given these are sort of small construction, then it's operation, you would hope that during operational phase, there'll be less issues, to potentially deal with.
How long did they say that construction was
2
done?
years.
2 years, yeah. I thought it was 18 months. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years. So yeah, hopefully you'll be meeting for a 2-year period.
I think there's some support of having some. So I think if you pass that on, and then we can come back to a report through council. Is that it, Gary?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Just to acknowledge Councillor Warhurst has apparently joined us on Zoom, and maybe baby Warhurst. So congratulations to you and Clint and the family, and thank you for for you taking other time.
Thank you very much. We are here. I have a squeaky little. I am in my pajamas, so I won't turn my video on. But yes, we have a squeaky little baby girl. So yes.
What are you calling her, Georgia?
Thank you.
What are you calling her, Georgia?
Her name is Billy.
Billy! Cute, beautiful, adorable. Can't wait to see photos. I'll see her.
I'm first dibs for cuddles next council meeting.
No worries, John. Easy.
And by the way, it's going to be on the 14th of July.
Minutes.
Agenda, sorry.
Works.
Works program.
Works program. I should have looked at the screen. Pass over to Dave.
This is just a bit of an overview of where we've come from to where we want to head. I've had a lot of discussions with our staff, our coordinators about how we move forward and trying to work on some stuff and trying to achieve what we can to maximise our dollars. So the works program is put together by the asset management plan schedules, which gives us a capital renewal. We've gone through and changed our plant replacement program, so we're changing practices. Obviously, we're looking at road trains and various other activities and types of treatments that we can address our road network or our activity list better. Through that is also condition assessments, which then authenticate the renewal programs. We always try to look at a proactive program rather than the distractions we receive from CAs, as it's already been mentioned. We started doing some service levels, and I put 4 up last meeting, and I suppose they are a discretionary activity, and I suppose they will create some adverse reactions from the public. So what we're looking at doing is going through a bit of a priority framework of how we set our service levels and having a structured works priorities system. So I'll touch base on that a little bit later. Also, we're going through a process at present where we want to identify what our current backlog is. Apart from us driving the roads and looking and seeing what we need to do and people ringing up saying, here's what we need to do, coming from a DIT background or a highways department background, I used to maintain these roads out here. I look at it now, they're deplorable. So I sort of look at what can happen to a road network, and I just want to be in a position where we are, or we know what our backlog is, so we can start addressing it appropriately. And obviously, when we set the service levels, we want to be able to match the resources to the budget to get the effectiveness we're after. Next slide, thanks, Carol. So just on a basis, we've obviously had a fairly busy year this year, but we're looking at proposing these roads for our unsealed road network next year. We'll have some carry forward. In that, you'll see Yandia Road. It's a fairly expensive process. That's the continuation of Murraylands Road, the overdimensional route, and also the widening of Murraylands Road. And we're anticipating and hopeful of receiving special local roads for that, which is 66% of that grant funding. So that's our draft proposal putting up now for our road network next year. And we're also looking at doing a maintenance program for our patching, which will actually lock down our patching to try to make it sure that we don't get, and let's face it, the construction gang do this. When they go do patching, they don't do construction, so they've got to go off and do patching. So we're looking at trying to diversify how we do it and lock down our works program so that we can be effective in our works program rather than actually being complaint-based. Next slide, thanks. Again, refinement. Sealed road network, we've still got to go through and work out to make sure we're okay with that through the condition rating, but our sealed road program and then our river program on this side, given regard that now we've got $2.4 million extra for Swan Reach for a boat ramp, and also looking at the Blashiam boat ramp as a detailed design as well. So they're taken from our asset management plans. Next slide, thanks. Waste and recycling, obviously we're looking at the expansion service, which touched on today, then the consultation of the urban and rural, which will be in readiness for 1 July this time next year. Cell 2, the waste is locked down. We've completed the Cell 2. And once we start, we're actually about to start putting rubbish into Cell 2 because we need to cover the Cell 2 because the UV on the liner, and then we can revert back to Cell 1. Also, in doing that, the Canberra business case, we're sourcing extra waste so that we can bring that in as an alternative revenue. So there'll be a report to the next council on that. And then transfer station sustainability, there'll be a report on what our visitation's been, and then generally a proposal from that to then close some extra transfer stations. So watch out for that report. Obviously, these will create some issues from various areas. With the swims, we've obviously just reviewed our asset renewal. We don't have a lot of data. We don't have flow rates. We don't have automation. We have very limited, very primitive systems on our swims. So we've been able to review our asset management plan. And then we also want to do, in our asset management plan is also looking at capacity assessments of our swims. So we've got a 3-year program of that. And then obviously we are now in the throes of the Swan Reach swims, which will be going from detailed design to construction. Next slide, thanks. So just in essence, going through those programs, our capital roads is already committed. Bang, that's you guys gone. That's all the team's done. Same with the road grading, as our swims, they're already committed. Our waste services are committed. So what we're trying to do is lock down where we're at, and so we can focus and direct our teams so that we can maximise what we need to do and what we have to do. Maintenance has never really been locked down as a commitment. It's been complaint driven, and it's very erratic, very distractive. And what I've been working with our waste management and maintenance coordinator is locking down timelines and blocks where they do certain activities. Yes, we know we're going to get storms. We know we're going to get other issues. But what happens is I'll go to one town, then I'll go to another town to do the same thing while they're set up for an activity. We want to try to stop that. And bring it into play that they actually have to fix things as they go, and then it becomes a routine process. And basically, the bottom line is requests, where we don't want to be driven by the requests. We get massive amount of requests, and if they don't like our answer, they'll go to you guys, they'll go to the CEO, they'll go to papers. But I want to be in a position where we have a structure so that we know how our priority setting's going, and that's going to take some time to do because our resources are not endless. I'm not going to come to you guys and say, can I have another 10 people and another 5 trucks? I don't think it's going to go down well. So we've got to maximise what we got. So next slide, thanks. So what we actually find is there's a lot of things we don't do, and we need to focus on it. Like I said, I mentioned about the DIT road network. If we don't start doing some intervention works on our road network, we're going to end up with a road network that looks like that. So we have a massive issue with rural vegetation. We have trucks that hit mirrors. You drive down Mallee Road, Millandilla Road, the vegetation's already on the road edge. Our graders go down our unsealed roads and they smash mirrors because the trees are actually already encroaching. So we've got to work a practice of that and have that in place. Our urban vegetation distracts us from our rural because people ring up about a tree up front of their place and then that becomes their focus and it makes us their focus. Also, we've got to be better at our sealed road, unsealed road patching for maintenance because obviously with the deterioration, we're getting larger transport configurations, greater frequency and more weights on our road network. So it's going to actually have a massive impact over the next 10, 15 years because of the way our road network has to perform under the transport configurations. I was also sealed road maintenance. Just our sealed road maintenance. We don't do a lot of edge repair. We don't do a lot of crack sealing. We don't do a lot of bitumen repairs. But that's our highest rate asset. It's probably about $250,000 a kilometre to rebuild. So we've got to start looking at those. And I've obviously put in there the deterioration that you see around the area for the DIT network. We don't want to be in this case. We want to be able to prevent that. So I'll touch on how we're going to do that shortly. Another factor is road shoulder deterioration. We very rarely get out onto the road shoulder and fix the road shoulder to make sure the road seal's okay. It works from the outside in to make sure that you've got the road formation working. I drive the roads as well, and I look at various areas where we're missing guideposts, regulatory signs, and just road safety elements on the 100-kilometre hour areas, let alone the speed zones in towns. So we want to be able to do an inventory on what we have out there and be able to put in a program so we can implement that to make our roads safer. The knowledge of our backlog. We don't know what our backlog of work is. With the DIT, when we went contract, we had to go around and do a full backlog and I was at Blystown Depot, and basically they said I had 35 years worth of work ahead of me if I wanted to do, because based on the backlog. So I don't know what our backlog is. So based on edge repairs, guideposts, all those things are factors I put in. There's also community expectations. People expect us to be there in that afternoon. They'll ring us, and then if they don't ring us, if we don't get back to them in the afternoon, they'll want us to ring us the next morning. We want to be able to have a program or a schedule in place that we can just say, right, we've got a schedule, here's where it is, we'll address it, we'll assess it, not address it. And then looking at the priority setting for service levels and having a logistical approach. Next slide, thanks. So to do that, there's actually a meeting as I speak now. We're working with the Coorong Council and quite a few AI companies where they will do an evaluation and view and basically film your road network and then pick up all your defects out of that road network. So that'll actually give us a backlog of what works we need to do. And I can tell you, I drive down Murraylands Road, Morrell Road, Millandilla Road, and I could spend weeks on there just repairing those roads, let alone the unsealed road network. So we're looking at going down that process and actually working out and recognising what our backlog is to say where we need to be. We're also doing a cost evaluation of our activities. Street sweeping, everyone wants to see a street sweeper, but how much does it cost to do Manum, a total sweep of Manum? We've got an idea, but if we do it 3 times a year, then that's 3 times a year, that's what your expenditure will be. We can then throw that money elsewhere to do these other programs. Same as weed spraying. We can be out weed spraying every day of the year because people will ring up about trees, grasses, weeds, whatever it is, and then your potholes go by the wayside because that becomes the focus. So we want to be able to come back with our services and say, okay, street sweeping, we'll only do it 4 times a year, and that's all we're going to do. And that's what council set because we need to be able to set out these other priorities. Again, backlog of the works, what aren't we addressing? There's a lot out there that people ring us up about and we just can't address it. We know it's an issue. If we don't address it, we're not going to get there. So we want to be able to come back and bring this back into play and say, okay, well, here's how we're going to do it with our service level and our priority setting. And setting up of the priority setting is on the basis that is looking at a risk evaluation of how we address our activities. If we said that 100-kilometre road, it gets 500 cars a day, the probability is there could be an accident. If it's an accident, it's catastrophic. If you put 500 cars a day down a 30K road, it's less risk. So then theoretically, we should focus our activities to the higher level priorities. So we want to be in a position where we have a risk-based priority framework. So how we work on our road maintenance and our capital works program. Once we know what our backlog is, obviously then we need intervention works. We don't do crack sealing, we do very limited edge repairs, we do very limited pavement, and we do very limited patching. So they're all things that are going to bite us in 10, 15, 20 years, which is going to have a massive effect on our capital program later because we're not addressing it during the maintenance years. Also, we're going through a process of change practices, like I said, the plant machinery, and also looking about blocking out times and blocking our maintenance team to say, okay, you're going to be doing tree trimming on this month and that month and that month. We're not going to do ad hoc tree trimming just because someone rings up. We want to be able to lock those guys down so that they can be more effective and actually have a bit more pride in the work they do too, rather than being complaint driven. And I suppose where this is going to come from is to get everyone here on board is to workshop the priorities, work out what our discretionary works are, and work out what our high costs and our risk remediations are and what they need to do, so we can work on what our services need to be set, so that everyone has, I suppose, a good working knowledge of why we're trying to address these issues and how we're going to try and be better at what we do. And I think that's the last slide. Is it the last slide? Any queries?
Okay, I think it's fantastic that you're going through this process. You know, it's huge, but will really help you, and it will certainly help council members as well when they're approached about questions. And it will also mean that some of the questions don't have to come to you. There'll be levels at which questions can be answered for the community, you know, because there'll be answers there in the paperwork. So I know it's a vast amount of work, but it also raises to me then you'll be in a better position, or economically the CEO would be in a better position to say what proportion of the overall dollars needs to go to which division, depending on what's happening in each division. And that could be an annually changing thing, you know, but I just think it's a terrific thing, even though it's a huge exercise.
I think the challenges we have, and we workshop this yesterday with just how we deal with complaints, and we've still got a long way to go on that. But I've got 47 outside staff. At any time, I could have an average of 4 people off annual leave for starters. Take sick leave out of that, take a long service leave out of that, and we're trying to get rid of leave. But then across those people in various areas, as soon as one goes on 2 leave Canberra, that actually almost shuts down a construction game. So you've got to try and work out how you do these things. So what we want to be able to do is identify, we've got the asset management plans in place, which looks at our renewal, but we don't have a backlog of what we do for maintenance, and we need to address that.
A question or just a comment in regards to like tree trimming and roadside verge, stuff like that. Do you have horticulturalist understanding of, say, like, you know, in autumn when you prune native trees, they're going to come back with less regrowth than if you were to, say, prune them in spring. And then they, you know, either way, when you prune something, it's going to come back more abundant from that pruning. I think that sometimes what we see is it might have been pruned in a region and then you see a phenomenal amount of growth happening post the trimming, because the trimming actually encourages growth. And I know you're saying how you're going to try and, like, instead of having it complaint driven, having it be like, say, this month and this month and this month, are we tying that in with what is probably horticulturally the practice to minimise the regrowth?
The regrowth will always occur where the growth is cut, because it's got the area to grow. So by cutting the trees, if I cut them now and in 5 years' time, they'll be back out where they were, because that's where the tree will naturally grow, and that's what happens. We don't address our rural tree trimming real well at all. It's very labour intensive. We're actually going out to tender now for a mechanical saw, so that we can actually then address. And what I've said to my team is, I want to do all your bitumen roads this year. Anyway, this oncoming year. That's a day. I don't know if I'll ever get there.
Yeah.
I've got to get the machine first.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to go out there and say, okay, well, you know, you said 3 people out there with a machine, and I just want you to go down one side, cut back. So to do that, I can't sort of pick and say do it in autumn or spring or whatever. I mean, I've probably got 6 months' work to do that. I mean, that's the goals I'm giving my guys, to say, what can we achieve to try to see if we can maximise our activities, and what tools and mechanisms do we need to address those activities. So that's a process we're trying to go through.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? So where to from here, Dave? Obviously, that's just a summary of what you're looking to do, but that'll come back through council. And
yeah, the works program will obviously come up in with the July adoption of the budgets, so it'll come into to those areas. So that's from the capital works program. I think it'll probably come back to some briefing sessions on how we've gone about it, what we've got, and just keep that on the agenda as to say, okay, well, if you've got 3 years worth of work on this area here. How are we going to address it, and what's the priority settings, and how do you want to work with us to say your priority settings are, and in our head is your 100 kilometre area zone, and you've got a 60, 70 kilometres there, 50 and a 30. Well, let's work percentile that work through those areas and say, well, let's aim to do 50% work in our 100k zone, 20%, 20%, 10%. Something along those lines. And that's the way that we want to try and set up the service levels so that we know how we're going to address it rather than being reactionary all the time.
With the pie chart setting.
Yeah. Yeah. And same as signage. I drive out the Purnong Road. I've got bends out there where I know I should put care markers on, which is the black on yellow curvature signs. But I drive past a sign and we put up a duck sign because someone rang us and put a duck sign up because it said we have a duck. Yeah. So, and I reckon if you go down the other side of the river, I think it's Glenburr Road out there, there's a pheasant sign up. Yeah. A sign with pheasants. Now, I mean, I've got
the potholes.
Well, the pheasant, I think they're saying mallee fowl, protecting the mallee fowl, which is important to protect the mallee fowls of population. But I hear what you're saying. Not as relevant to road safety.
But we'll get a request to put up, say, wombat signs right on every road around the area. I've got regulatory signs that are the highest priority.
Yeah,
and road naming signs is just another one, just to get around their area. Anything white back should be at the highest priority. So we want to bring that framework into play, and it won't be locked down and locked down hard because obviously things change, but it gives us an answer to how we do things.
Currently, what do you reckon the percentage of our signs that are removed or that aren't there, like that are needing to, like the backlog of our safety signs, 20%? Down?
I'll be able to tell you once we do an inventory of the signs.
Okay.
Because I would probably say that the road naming signs that were put up prior to anyone around this table, I think, were the little rural property address ones. And it says, Mildon Road or something like that, which should be a sign at 2.7 metres high, fingerboard, double-sided, saying this is it, that's the Australian standard. So we're probably about 99% shy of just road naming signs.
Wow. Shivers.
In the rural area.
Okay, that's big.
Township areas are okay. I would like to think that I'd like to be 100% with giveaway signs. If I'm not 100% with giveaway signs and there's an accident,
we're liable.
You could go to coroner's court.
Yeah. Jesus.
And just regarding like you're saying about the wildlife, if the team's able to get the vegetation cut back, that reduces the risk of hitting the wildlife.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can got better vision on each side of the road. So,
right, any more questions? No, thank you, Dave. The next item is the caretaker policy,
Which is the speech.
So you may not have been seeing anything because you've been diligently listening to Dave talk, but it's just been announced that the government is putting legislation to the Parliament to postpone the elections until April 2027.
That passed. Oh, it's been proposed.
I know it's going to Parliament next week.
So, we're going to get ahead of the game and have a caretaker policy for maybe February. So, obviously there's implications to that, and I'm sure there will be discussion post, but we'll keep on the agenda.
And they didn't put a timeline on when they might defer it to?
Yeah.
April 27th.
April.
And then the following election will be the following November, so it'll be nearly a 4.5 year term for us, and then 4 years and 7 months for the next crew.
Right, let you ponder that and make decisions about your futures.
Resignation letter.
Out of interest, the quorum is for the people that are actually elected at that time.
So one council ran on, one mayor and one elected member at the start of the term. So the government.
This is not my opinion, but someone said that might be a dream. Caretaker policy. So obviously we need a caretaker policy in place to manage the caretaker period. Thank you. Text heavy, so I apologise for that in advance, but council is required to have a policy to ensure compliance with the Act, provides guidance and restrictions on the types of decisions that council can make, of the current council that will affect the operation of the next council coming in. As a minimum, the policy must prohibit making of designated decisions. So there's a term of designated decisions and there's certain ones that you can and can't make. For example, like appointing the new CEO and the use of the council resources for the advantage of a particular candidate or group during an election period. So the caretaker policy currently is in force for an entire election period. So on the dates that are...
Ben, you've had 5 minutes to talk.
Some add how many months, but currently it's 8th September 2026, which is the commencement or close of nominations, and then to the 13th of November 2026, if uncontested. Really up to change depending on the Parliament. The draft caretaker policy that we have presented to you today is, in most part, only minor grammatical changes with the addition of the following clauses to apply with the amendments. So there's a clause 5.13, which talks about public meeting provisions, which I'll talk about in a second, and an optional clause 5.14, which is around public meeting certification by a principal member. Section 91B of the Act, which is a new, Vicky, I think, requires council to hold a public meeting involving any candidates who wish to participate in members of the public relating to issues in the community relevant to the election, and to inform members of the public of policies and reviews of the candidates. This meeting must be presided by the CEO or their delegate, and is separate to the information meeting. So we hold an information meeting each year. I think we've in the past held 3.
Yes.
We've done all this planning already, and we've done all this work internally. We have actually proposed just to have 1, is that right?
Yeah.
And Zoom it, which now might be moot. Vicky, so
Yep.
we're lucky we've spent all this time doing it.
Yeah.
Vicky and Larissa have a weekly meeting to discuss the elections.
Yeah.
You might just pause those ones.
Delay.
Yeah.
So this is a separate meeting that is now required, and it related to the process of information prepare for roles election member. So we would still do that, but there's potential that we have to hold a separate meeting, and there's some reasons why you can't, or council can make a decision not to. So the requirement to hold a public meeting does not apply in relation to a council if the council's caretaker policy provides that a public meeting of kind referred to in this section will not be held. So you can make a decision to not hold one. And then we have to include a statement which is certified by the principal member, setting out the council's reasons for not holding a public meeting. So quite text-heavy slide, but these are the exceptions, the reasons why. Is council is satisfied that the meeting equivalent to a meeting of candidates is to be arranged by another person. So, for example, at the moment, the Mountain Progress Association do hold one. So that's potentially a reason if it satisfies the requirement of the Act. Another reason council has determined the cost of arranging the meeting outweighs the benefits. Council is satisfied that other statutory mechanisms provided for the Act for informing members of the public of the issues in the community relevant to the election and the policies and views of the candidates are sufficient to allow electors to make decisions at the election. And also if the council considers that the task of informing members of the public of the issues in the community relevant to the election, the policies and the views of candidates is best left to the individual candidates rather than council as a body corporate or other as specified council. So really, that's probably the only choice you have to make. We're looking for some guidance because we'll bring back a caretaker policy the council will consider, is whether you feel that the additional meeting should be held, and if not, what are the reasons why that is shouldn't be held.
My thoughts are, I'd be really uncomfortable signing this if I was going for this position. I'm not uncomfortable signing it because I'm not going for the position. But I also don't feel like a CEO presiding a meeting like that is a great spot for the CEO to be in with, because if you have to tell one of the potential elected members that they're like, it's not a great relationship starter. So I like the idea of us not having anything to do with that and coming up with whatever reason it need be. But if I was applying for mayor, I'd be uncomfortable saying, well, I don't want it, because I'm already in and I don't need it. So, I don't mind this term, but obviously the next group of elected members, if the mayor's going to reapply for the job, it does, for me, it puts them in a interesting pickle. And even if it came to the meeting and all the elected members wanted you to sign that and I thought against it, I've still got to sign it as mayor. So I think it's interesting that the government are forcing this upon the mayor and elected members to make that decision. Anyway, that's my 2 cents, but I like it in there because, like I said, I've got no conflict of interest at all.
Vicky, can I just ask if you've heard back from Management Progress yet? They've got a meeting this week.
They're meeting on the 18th. They're making their final decision there. So it's the same as they always have, and I think they are. But they're just going to confirm it.
They even did it for the by-election.
Yeah.
So hold or not to hold? So we'll still do a public information session, which we do. It's just whether we do the prescribed meeting as outlined in the Act, or you feel.
I think if Progress are willing to do like they did last term, then leave it at that. It seemed to work fine last time.
The only difference is there's certain requirements on this meeting, and so Progress is really meet the candidates. Whereas this meeting, my understanding is you need to talk about relevant issues or outline issues that are relevant to the community from an internal perspective as well as other opportunities.
I mean, what they might face if they come on board. What are
the big issues?
at the moment?
We're dealing with SWIM's annuity, we're doing those kinds of things.
Couldn't that happen at this meet the candidates? Couldn't there be a spot?
Well, that's up to the separate body though. I don't think council can dictate what needs to happen.
But could that happen in the information meeting? I mean, that's a perfect spot for it to go, hey, if you want to put your hand up, these are the kind of things
Which is we're dealing with at the moment.
That's where you should have it.
I guess with the information meeting, you'd hope that those elected members who are currently doing the term would be there to then share insight, as well as you, obviously, Simone, of like what the experience has been like for us in the last 4 years and and our priorities moving forward, even if we aren't renominating, what we'd like to see for continuity of council, right?
The only other thing is that Man in Progress, is only one ward, is in one ward. The bulk of the electorate are here, but I did think when I went to their one 4 years ago that what about the people in the north of the region?
Well, Truro always hold their own.
Do they?
Yeah, it's quite surprising, with the size of Morgan, it's never been they've never bothered.
And Man in Progress allowed the people from the other wards to come, Jake.
Of course. It's just a bit of a way to travel.
So people's thoughts?
You've got to get used to it if you want to be on council, because this is where the meetings are.
Oh, not for that. I was meaning for the people coming to listen, not for the candidates.
So we're zooming.
They can. I think it was live.
Ordered it. We don't normally for the information and candidate information sessions, but this is 4 years later, so I would think.
And also we did 3 and one of them no one turned up.
Yeah.
So
2.
Right?
2. No one turned up.
No one turned up. So
I turned up to all.
when Vicky and I talked about this, we thought, we don't know how many we're going to get, but not get, so let's be efficient. With technology is now able to. I did ask whether we might be inundated in this room. We might not be able to fit in. Vicky laughed like she just did that.
Sorry.
And last term, the Meet the Candidates that Progress put on, that was also broadcast. Like there was people listening.
Was it?
Yeah.
Recorded, yeah.
I've still got a recording.
To hold or not to hold, what's the vibe?
I'd love to leave it up to the recommendation of staff, because I feel like we've all got a conflict of interest here.
But you don't really, because all you're doing is saying that you're going to hold the meeting. It's the council's decision.
I don't have a conflict of interest.
Well, neither do I, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if you guys think you can fit the things into the information session, like I think that's a
The
problem with the session is Ben comes up and says, oh, look, we're going to, build a brand new boat and this is how we're going to fund it. And then these people who don't know anything about council or how you get funding or anything like that go and promise the world. And Ben has to then stand up the front and try and preside that. I just think that's hard for the CEO.
Your point is that candidates could say things that are just not actually achievable.
And you're the CEO, so you really need to go, well, hang on, you can't do that. So then you're going to be fighting with candidates. For me, it's just wrong.
I've already been hearing it from prospective.
Yeah, correct.
So
All right, we'll consider that and a report will come back to council.
Sounds good.
Thank you. So lunch is at 1 o'clock, is that right, Carol? All right, so we'll get on to the next item, which we've got 5 minutes for, which is the review of the budget. No, I'm just joking. I will say that we do have a citizenship ceremony this afternoon, so we are under some time constraints. It's not till 3:30. So what Clive has done, he obviously sent out the spreadsheet last week and asked for feedback. He's received feedback from a number of you. We've developed a spreadsheet up with all of those comments with Paul's support and assistance. So Paul, maybe you want to come up to the table as well and join. And so we've got a spreadsheet.
So what I'll do is I had 4 elected members provide me with lots of questions. So I'll provide those with hard copies as well as our directors.
And we've got a spreadsheet on the thing. So just because you didn't get hard copy.
Yeah.
So 120.
Hey, Clive. Did you give some questions?
I don't know.
I've got a copy as well. I'm going to put it up on the screen and I'll give you a copy anyway, electronic copy anyway.
So the hard copy is for those that had asked questions because it's got answers to their questions.
Answers their questions.
Right. So we're not hiding information. It's just those that individually ask questions. They've got a hard copy to refer to help them with their prompt of questions. And then we've got the whole thing up on the screen.
Yep. So there was only 99. So we've got 30 minutes. So,
100.
So that's 18 seconds per
99 questions. I'm sorry.
And then the budget ain't one.
I'm a joke.
There's 18 seconds per question. Go 4 o'clock.
Be quick.
Let's just crack on.
So what I'll do is, and look, I understand that the people that have provided questions haven't had time to review those yet as well. So, so we can still have some back and forth going back on these. Yep.
So again, this is not finalised, so you don't feel like you might not hear the answer or you might not get the information. That we can continue to have this conversation. Clive compiling and Paul compiling this wasn't able to give it to you in advance of the discussion today. So we'll work through it and then there can be further clarification or question post.
So the first number item, there was a question about whether there was enough amount allowed for the election. So we've actually approximately doubled the election cost from 4 years ago, if there's an election and when it's an election. The next amount was...
If you are happy with that, then speak up or not speak up. So Clive will keep cracking through.
My question was in 2022, the actual expense was 368K. So if you've doubled it, like what else did we spend money on in 2022?
Yep. So the other items like elected members training, allowances at 223. So you've kind of got you've got not only the elections in there, you've got all your allowances, etc., for the elected members as well.
So that's still going to be plus CPI. Just worried we haven't budgeted enough if we spent more than what we're budgeting now 4 years ago.
But it's not just the election, so we've doubled the cost of the supplementary election.
So the amount that you're quoting would have had the elected members' allowances, etc., in there. We don't spend $250,000 on elections.
Yeah, but our allowances are still there.
Yep.
So in 2022, we spent 16 grand more than what we're budgeting now.
You think we did? Yep.
That's what,
okay.
Yeah.
I'll go back and visit.
I went to the annual report to get that figure out of what elected members' expenses were.
And look, we may have spent less on other items this year, or budgeting to spend other items on less. It's not just.
I just don't think that's enough. Like,
yep. So basically, probably another 20,000 there to make it 60,000.
Yeah.
Well, I think we based.
And we'll try and get some confirmation from electoral commission.
Yeah, my only point was, can you go to 2022, have a look at what's in there, because I don't think that's enough. But.
Yep. Okay. So the next one was, and I'll just call the item numbers, which is the blue number on the sheet here. There was a budget communications position at 0.8. And there was a question, was it 0.4? It may have been possibly previously 0.6, but I don't my understanding there was ever 0.4.
I think it was always 0.8. We haven't engaged with it, or we haven't progressed the implementation of it. We're just doing it internally. But it's part of the strategic priority to improve that space. So it's up to elected members whether we implement that
Is
or
it
not.
up to us? I thought it was up to you being the
Well,
CEO.
No, because you set the strategic priorities.
Yeah.
And so that position is there to deliver some of the strategic priorities that we haven't done. So if that wants to happen, then that position, same as the economic development position. So absolutely staffing is my remit, but it's about what is done strategically or not.
So item number 39. So there was a comment about the 18% rise is necessary. So basically we've got strategic planning, which will come back up after the next elections. So there's an amount of $10,000 there, and in addition, $11,000 for consultancy and $5,400 for annual membership. So that's what makes up the difference there. So basically, the consultants is $26,000 out of the $31,000 increase.
Okay, I've put in there for some strategic planning processes to start it. It may not actually occur in the start of it, especially now, but we're required to start the process after the election. So that's why I put some money in there for it.
My feeling for that is, can items like that come to council to go, do you want consultants to help with this, or do you want, rather than if you put it in once every 4 years and then it gets left in, which we've seen a little bit throughout this document where they've just left the extra things, it goes as the norm, like the CPI plus last year's. And then when the CEO goes, well, actually, I'm not going to get this done by myself. I need to go to council and say, hey, I want a budget adjustment of $10,000 plus 15 of consultants. So then the elected members are really aware of where that extra money is going, because 18% is a huge rise when we only want a 3.64% rate rise. So just so that elected members are more informed of where ratepayer money is being spent. That's my only thought there. Just because it does get forgotten, and then next year that budget stays the same, even though you don't need to do the strategic planning.
Don't want it in there?
Up to you guys. I mean, you guys are going to recommend
we put it in there.
Yeah, we put it in there. So that's why it's in there. We feel it's reasonable to have some allocation. If we don't use it, then we'll do a budget adjustment.
Yeah.
That's
especially keeping in mind that you may have a lot of new elected members. You may have to have some workshops or some additional help, and you'll have a new CEO as well. So probably a good idea to have it in there, I would say. Item number 68. This was governance employee cost. So looking at a governance position of 0.8 or possibly a full-time equivalent. Yep.
And it originally was 3 days. That was just to do the strategic component of it, but to build it up, we're going through the recruitment process, and it's most likely to get a candidate is going to be a 1.0 role. Actually, the 0.8 probably, subject to interviews this week, may need to be increased.
We've had candidates.
There's candidates. Yep.
Item number 77. Why such a large consistency? So the biggest increase is legal fees increased by $20,000. Legal fees decreased for $20,000 in 26-27. So that's actually, and what we normally do is we actually have contingencies at the start, and as we have a quarterly budget reviews, we normally pare back those contingencies at each budget review. Failure not to have that would be that we would be unable to contract any lawyers, basically, and there may be situations which, you may have to contact them urgently and get something underway.
The only thing that I would just say with that is that our actual last year was quite low, which is good, you know, sort of stuff like that. I know it's sort of good to have it in there just in case, but would it be prudent to, if we need to have legal action, for the elected members to be aware of the legal action and the reasoning why?
I'd kind of reflect on the previous councillors that we had, and that would have been a minor amount for legal charges.
Oh, yeah.
Look, it's a philosophical decision whether you put contingency in and then you reduce it through your budget reviews, or you go the other way. And so
this again, I actually pulled up the July 2 years ago council report where it had this actual listing that came to council. So then when I looked in there, the budget was only 50K. Yet now we want 122K. Like, I get what Clive's saying. We started off at 140 this year and we've reduced it as need be. Well, actually, we haven't. We've kept it at 144. But again, like, why did we only need 50K 2 years ago, but now we're needing 100? Like, this is where I'd rather cut back and bring it to elected members when you're getting close to that to say, hey, we need more legal. So you guys need to change that.
My feeling is that we're not talking about, I mean, this is the first I've heard these questions, but I don't think we're talking about having no contingencies. What the discussion is actually about, well, two things. One is what comes to council for discussion. That's one thing. But the other is the changes to the level of contingency from 1 year to the next, or from the beginning of one term to the end of the term. That's the question mark that I had over the document. My questions really were around that side of it. Just why the increases? I think contingencies are essential personally.
Like that amount is the legal contingencies is only the minor amount. It's not the majority amount.
No, I'm talking more generally than just that particular item. Where there's been a big shift in the amount allowed compared to the previous amount allowed. Anyway, we'll come to my question.
So two of those items are the community land management plan.
The Info Council would be the licensing where we use our agenda is there. So there's a whole lot of kind of like related costs to the governments included in that line. Yeah.
So we can cut the contingencies out. And then it just becomes, we have to come to council each time, which my opinion is just not operationally efficient.
No, I tend to agree with that. But, you know, it's always tricky, isn't it, how much comes to us? And there may be specific items like, you know, if legal action's considered, then, you know, we don't do a lot of that. So is it legal action or is it just legal fees we're talking about as well?
It's getting it. So we have a number of items where we actually pay a retainer first of all. So that's deemed to be legal costs. So then we can actually get a quick answer, and that's recovered by
not legal action related.
No, it's legal professional advice, I suppose, which could fall into legal expenditure.
I mean, I don't mind some level of increase because of the costs increasing for everything at the moment. So, yeah, it's just where it appeared a little bit huge that I've got my questions.
But if you go back 8, maybe 10 years ago, there was a lot of legal action over land to do with like planning department, and it was like never ending because both sides didn't want to give in.
Yeah, and it's all facets of our business that David's finding roads in the wrong place. So automatically you need to get some legal advice, which is the best way to go forward, depending on what type of...
Simone's point is that the budget's pretty much the same with a reduction of about 20 grand in legal fees. But that's based on what we budgeted for last year, not necessarily what we spent. I know that from a governance perspective, we spent the money on the CLOMP reviews, which we've put a budget for and we can spend it, and then we put a budget for it again. So there's rationale behind why things are in there. It's just we haven't spent them over the last couple of years.
But 2 years ago, the budget was only 50 grand.
Yeah, we wouldn't have had. We wouldn't have the CLOMP.
Info Council and things like that. That's the kind of stuff that we just need to know.
We didn't have Info Council Yeah, we didn't have what's the other one with the delegations?
Reliance.
Reliance as well. So there's a whole lot of software licensing built into that, which is allowed us to be more efficient, more productive in those areas and probably better reporting.
Yep.
So the next one is item 168. So this was just a query about the maternity leave income protection versus the recovery versus the expenditure, which is 3 or 4 lines up. So what normally happens is we open up a claim, and then either between with our income protection insurance, because it's done within the scheme, we actually look after the administration of that. So we actually pay out where any other company would have those payments would have gone over to an insurance company and do. We actually administrate that. So that's how we get, because we're with the local government self-insured. And then what we do is we put in for a claim under the income protection, and then we might, where the person may have taken a whole lot of annual leave, or the claim's open, and then we can actually, if someone was going through treatment for cancer, etc., like that, at the end of the 12 weeks, we could actually claim for their wages, and then we'll get that reimbursement back from our insurance company. So there's income and expenditure, but the timing of it at times can be quite a lot out. So as I've done in the response there, last year's total expenses, there was an extra additional $13,000 credit in that, just to show you that how it flows both ways. Item number 195, the acronym was just highlighted there. That's the Local Government Association Mutual Liability Scheme for our insurers. So that's basically insurance for a number of minor covers that we've got. Item number 210. Comment, is this realistic considering we know that we're getting financial assistance grants in advance again? Yep. So we've got borrowings of approximately $5 million in the budget. We'll revisit that interest expense now. Now we know the certainty around the financial assistance grants, which is 75%, which each accountant in local government hates, because it just distorts our results. It's hard to explain to the general public, and basically it's manipulation by the federal government to make their books look worse. We've actually asked for,
when they need it, they hold it back.
That's right. Yeah, coming up to elections, then they'll reduce their expenditure and cut that back. So it's a bit unfortunate. We'd like it in advance. We'd like 100% on the 1st of July, but they won't, or 75 or 50%, but they won't give it to us. So we'll revisit that with the final budget. Item number 225, Galpin Centre was 17,000. Council report said 22K per year. So what is included in there would be a lot of our minor grants, etc., and sign-offs such as income protection wages, workers' compensation wages. All those go back to the auditors to get signed off. So their tender amount versus what we end up paying is a little bit different. And a lot of times we put that back to the grant, but that's not always, they don't recover those because that's basically after the event. So item number 230, the comment was their 2024 budget was 126,000, or 49% increase in 2 years. What we've done now, I think about 25 years ago, we had a full-time equivalent. I think we've got the same person there now. Now, obviously that workload. So what I've done is I've moved to, 0.5 a full-time equivalent to help. So basically we have 1.5 full-time equivalent there. So that's what the big difference is. And that hopefully gives us a better response as far as rates are concerned. And we try and nail the majority of those calls as they come in. So if Julie's not available, then it goes to the financial assistant officer.
So that's where maybe the SWIM's full cost attribution should be offsetting part of that extra expense. Because we'd be getting full cost attribution for rates collection.
And we've got
rather than the general ratepayer.
Yep, and then the full cost attribution offsets that, and then debits the CMWS based on different drivers that we've created. Yep. So basically, you'll probably find that finance actually didn't really increase over that period of time. It probably reduced. General rates, operating expenses. So we've got a couple of items here about Section 184. So what we have to do is, as we get bills from the lawyers that they're sending out all the notices, etc., they're replying to all the responses, negotiating with on our behalf with all the Section 184s. I think we started with 70. We ended up with 9, I think, in the end. So the cost of those gets put on the rates, and then when we recover those, basically recovery occurs when we're actually putting the debits against each assessment. That's when they come. And unfortunately, because of our system, they've actually flown through a line higher above, which would have been income rates, legal costs recovered. So the system doesn't allow us to put it into, we just have legals recovered, and so it puts against that income line. So, and once we start more actions, we'll put an appropriate budget in there, depending on how many properties we have in the next round. Item number 287. Can we really clear that on the rates that it's the state government? Yep. So we've just had the rate model, the model rate notice from the LGA, and they actually wanted certain lines directly under the charge. Unfortunately, we can't do that, but what we're going to do is do a little asterisk and then have an asterisk down the bottom and saying this is only clicked on behalf of the state government. So definitely
make it firmer than that. The suggestion is this is collected as part of the state government. If you have any queries, call Landscape Board or the minister, because they're saying we don't have anyone complaining that it's on their council rate, so we're going to leave it. The advice that we've been receiving is if we make people call the Landscape and say, hey, this has gone up by...
Any inquiries?
Yeah, and we wrote to the minister warning that. So we've written as a council warning that we want to make that line firmer, but I just want to make sure it happens.
Item 305. Why not? I think so the creditors explained actually went back to legals. We're still dealing with the last round. I've still got I've got to start gazetting unclaimed monies. I've got several amounts which we can't give back because either we can't contact those people, or they won't give us our bank details because they're in. I don't think that property's been sold, I think. Item 307, regional landscape. Does this cover BPay, FOS charges? Can we invoice landscape? Wonderful differences, yeah. So I'll have to go back to my drivers probably on that just to see whether the bank charges reflect that.
My guesstimate based on what my daughter pays is it wouldn't even cover the EFT fees, and I think we should be going to the government at least asking for our full cost attribution amount, which is 13,000 rather than 7, based on if everyone paid EFT, and if they don't, well then it's costing us to get the procedure collection anyway, which is more than the EFT charge. I just think if we need to start being firmer with the government so that we don't have to collect that fee.
Noted. Item 359, IT Smart Cities external expenses. We've left the budget in it, but that's really for decommissioning, not for running expenses. Why was this noted in the regional report? I can't remember. So the original budget was there to continue the service. So then we're basically using the budget which is there to decommission. Yep. And that was only part way through this financial year. So
I think, I don't know about everyone else, but council thought that once we'd made that decision that there'd be no further budget on that. That's why I was just asking if it was in the report. They might have made a different decision. I don't know.
Well, we've got these screens sitting on the board. There's electricity that's been connected to them. There's a CCTV. There's internet access connected to them. And when we pull down the shroud and the TV, there's going to be holes or unpainted areas. So we've got to make good for those. So
I get that, but I just think it would have been great to be in the report.
Well, decommissioning was definitely mentioned. I don't know if we've
I
got
don't
the
think it
figure.
was that amount. That's why that's a lot. But, you know, you might get less than that. You get told.
So basically, sending an electrician around to each site is going to be reasonable costs, and decommissioning. There could be some savings in there. Wi-Fi item 365. Once again, same story there. It's mainly the main street and also Swan Reach. That. Which is at the bowling club. So we'll have to get access there to just decommission those items. Item number 399, library Morgan employee costs. I'll probably make it just a general comment to do with community services. There was a review at all of the costings throughout all the community service people. So there was a bit of a shuffle around of costings to more reflect in this upcoming budget, 2027, where the people spend their time and their effort, basically. So, and also there's been a number of positions which have been vacant or partly vacant. So then there's some comments there about recharging the budget to be based on the being fully filled all those positions.
Just further to that, because of that very reason, that the way that the community services budget is structured is around positions which don't exist anymore. So it's very mixed in terms of the actual operational costs versus salary costs. So as you're aware, when we council adopted the community development strategy, part of the process was to find $200,000 in savings, which was achieved. We've still maintained some vacancies within the team. So going forward, any operational costs that are associated with these positions, it'd be nice to be able to get those realigned to those service functions so that we can actually understand what is the true cost of the service, so that way we can operate effectively.
So basically, that's the amounts there has been based on the information given to finance on the positions and the new costings. Item 408, Morgan Library general expenses. I just have it for that. It's library resources where they have local purchases, telephone data, insurance and subscriptions make up that amount. So not sure which one of those items you want to take out or any of those. But they're all required.
Asking because we've only spent 7,000. Why do we need 12,000?
Yes. And as I said, at the moment, I'd be hesitant to take anything out of community services until we do that review of realigning the budget against the actual service functions, because then we can actually sort of say legitimately what are the operating costs.
And then on the total on there, just major drivers of the 153 result salaries 103 and full cost attribution 52. Item number 458, year to date lower than why the extra 23,000 can savings be made here considering only spent 30,000 this year. I looked at the previous 3 years and all the expense for the previous 3 years were above 60,000. So obviously the activities in that area have kind of been reduced, and I'd say probably there's been distractions such as Play Our Own Way and those other projects. So they haven't gone along with their normal normal activities that officer would be looking at. Item 463, 16,000 more in salts. Oh, no, that's FCA. I don't know why that's on there. So take that, Councillor Schultz, you picked up that maybe there was a difference between the consultancy budget, I think. Item 463 is full cost attribution. That's come straight out of my spreadsheet, and that's I don't think that's changed as far as I know. Sorry, it's probably changed from one year to another, but it's just the activities and the drivers, they get altered each year. I do a review on those. So I've done a review once again, and I'll do another review coming up as probably before the adoption of the budget, just to make sure everything's right. So I'm kind of fine-tuning all the time.
That's not actually money spent, Ros. That's full cost attribution. So we're saying community services.
Yeah, it's just kind of like attributing the cost and saying, what's the admin, support for that?
Yeah, it's just sort of why has it bumped up that much?
Yeah, I'd have to have a look. Yeah, there's a whole lot of different drivers. So one of the drivers is the number of transactions that have hit that sub-program. So and then that basically distributes like the amount of finance, and also I think it's a drive for the CEO's area as well, because it adds to the complexity of it.
Could be that they're using cars more because of all the consultations, things like that.
Item number 490, community service project office centre expenses. I had a look at historically there, and I think that that could be trimmed down by $10,000 when looking at the previous expenditure. And what I've done is I normally look at the last 3 or 5 years. If it's been stable, that position's been stable, that activity has always been there. I look at a longer period of time and look at the average, and then give it the average plus a little bit more.
So my question is, given the fact that those positions don't exist anymore, are you getting a true apple to apple comparison around those expenditures?
I'm only looking at historically what I've given you, but I don't know what else judgment I can use. Item 518, Morgan Activity Centre General operating expenditures. Once again, I looked there and thought that around $18,000 could be a better budget line there based on previously. When I did go back way, maybe I think 5 or 6 years ago, the activities at the hub were very much higher, and there was very much a higher expense. But I think the management have changed there, where the volunteers to run some of the events, etc.
Did you do 507?
You just missed 507.
Yeah.
Did I? Sorry. Good pick up. Pull me in line.
He was only answering to the mayor.
Community services. The wrap. Yeah. So we've actually got that placed in our carried forwards, this budget line as well. And I suppose the question is, if we're bringing our item unspent money, do we need to bring this amount into the new financial year as well?
So what's proposed is to do a review of the RAP in the next financial year, because obviously there's been a lot of inactivity with the RAP for a variety of reasons, including the fact that the community development strategy was being developed, and obviously some of the reconciliation activity has sort of been put aside given some of the issues we've had with some of our First Nation. We're hoping that some of that relationship building will improve in the next few months, particularly around the cultural mapping work that's been done as part of the RPP project. So in some respects, the review of the RAP seems more appropriate than necessarily progressing what the current RAP has. So it's a bit of a gap analysis, and then working for what way forward.
Clive, is your point that we're carrying money forward and we've got a budget, so we double dipping?
100 grand.
Yeah, so we don't need that.
No, we don't need that.
So we can reduce this budget because of the carry forward amount.
So I'll just put 507. So we don't need any at this stage. It'll have the carried forwards, and the motion that we passed in today's council meeting will allow them to spend that money from the 1st of July, which has been unspent. Yep. 518. Yeah, we looked at the Morgan Activity Centre, looked at the last 5 years and did a bit of an average. I think it was like that's 16 or 17 that I've allowed for a bit of inflation because I'm going back right over 5 years and recommend 18,000 for the hub. Item 560. Morgan Hub and building maintenance expenditure. So 2025-26 budget was reasonably higher than normal, and that was due to the modifications to the front entrance of the counter to ensure that those staff members. So my recommendation would just back to like a minimal amount plus CPI as I've listed there. Item 575. What's this other income? Morgan Hub other consists of photocopying, minor amount, and the hosting of video conferencing services SA there. And I understand that we get similar income from Blanchetown as well. They still operate on there. You go.
Other income.
We're doing so.
You'll never see me questioning other income.
Yeah, where'd they come from?
Where we get it from, and whether we can get more.
Yeah, can we multiply that across every activity?
Madam Smidway support do it here.
Item 586. What are the general operating expenses so high? Only operate half a day per week. So I actually went through all the expenditure and just listed there. So we've got, so there's public toilets there. There's sanitary nappies, bins, termite, security monitoring, insurance, cleaning, phone and data. There's normally a contingency amount for some maintenance repairs and printing consumables. So, even though we may be only there for a short period of time.
We don't own the building. Like, why are we doing it?
We're still keeping responsibilities of.
So that was the last budget. The last review report that came to council. We itemised those costs that council contributes to. So those are the items. So at the moment, we're not.
Terminix, like, do we do that for other halls that are community owned? Like, just feels.
Probably because that building sits on a white ant nest, because they've built the council sort of side of it. They built it twice.
Does that mean if the Purnong Hall or the Young Husband Hall find out they've got termites, they can come to council and say, "Oh, look, can you pay for our Terminix as well?" Like,
I don't know what the arrangement is when council build it.
So my understanding is no lease.
There is no lease.
So there is no.
I just don't know, like, if the ombudsman looks at it and goes, why are you doing that for that hall that you don't own? Like, I get the public toilets if it's, we're paying for it because it's plumbing. And this is why I don't think we should be operating an office there, but that's my opinion. We own a Swan Reach building where we could be putting that money into. That's our building. Like, we've got this huge expense for a half a day a week.
I think you need to find out somehow when council built onto the side of the hall, what agreement was there?
Yeah, so we had a report on that.
Because there is an agreement that with the electricity, that there's a percentage of the electricity that council pays.
I think we pay all.
So what is planned though is to have a conversation with the committee to negotiate who's paying for what. So that's planned.
let's do that and let's consider those things as part of that
I
discussion.
mean, we also have to think about the ombudsman, and if other community groups come to us and ask for this stuff, how we can say no to them when we're doing it for this group.
And I know other halls would ask for a grant. If they were to want to do something like that from council, they would apply for community grants.
Don't go for operating expenses.
Oh, they don't, yes, I know. So they wouldn't fundraise.
Yes, a lot of other community groups would happily take some of that money to help with their buildings.
Item 610, while the increased position was not filled for the current financial year. So as we've done previously, like during budget reviews, if we can cut back, because it's not filled for current year, we reduce the wages and salaries. So item number 635. This is the preventive health partnership is a position which is between Murray Bridge, Karoonda and ourselves. And so what happened is the government funding body has given us money in advance, and the councils contribute on an annual basis. So the comment where I put there is 5,000, 5,000, 5,000 is the contribution for this financial year. So our council and the other councils will make that same contribution next year, where the government's given us all the money in advance. So that's why where we get down to the 604 item 647, I've got unspent state funding to be carried forward across. Item 649, we've got an increase there, and once again, this is cost and community services office has been recosted along with budgeting for and any vacancy position. So and there's one particular officer there, and they were spread across, I think, 4 or 5 areas where they're actually only going to be in 2, and this is the majority area. Item 703. Community Programs Coordinator. They're just the general positions. I've looked at the previous expenditure and agreed that it could be reduced, that could be up to 6,000. Item 721. Centres. Oh, what's this? So we've got the medical health centres at Blanchetown, Swan Reach, Morgan, and the expenditures are insurance, cleaning, phone, water, pest control. Item 739, other income. I agree that's a very small amount. Basically, this is the amount we get from the Swan Reach Medical Centre. And it's probably overstated in our budget for the new financial year. We need to reduce it to about $1,200.
That's it.
Item number 767. The slight's no longer a position. If I just scroll back up if you look at that whole group of accounts, I think the description all should read at the start, grant fund coordinator. It's not grant funded, it's the coordinator which helps our community to get grants, and also helps council as well by keeping a view on those. So the last 2 lines, item 766 and 767, I'll write that down. The title should be changed to grant funding rather than having 2 titles at the start. It's a little bit confusing. And we could move up the expenditure in line 767 back up to higher there, because the only thing going in there is the Grant Guru website access. Item 769. That's just community services. Line item 780. general expenditure in 2024-25 was only $11,000. I've actually just looked at the items which are contained in the budget there. So community development strategy, $20,000, disability access inclusion plan response, $30,000. And we've still got the National Small Towns Reinvention Conference for 8,300. I'm not sure whether that's carried forward from.
I think that's carried forward. I don't think it needs to be carried forward. I think
so. I can move. I'll reduce that.
Yeah.
780. Remove the Small Towns Reinvention Conference because that was, I think, funded by someone else externally. I'll trim that line down. Line number 835 or item 835. I spent 40,000 so far. Is this budget increase by 30%? And I've just said the increase is probably dependent on having someone in that position.
We haven't progressed it. We haven't progressed some of this. Like we didn't do the economic development strategy. So again, that's a council direction on whether you're happy with us just doing what we're doing, which is not delivering the strategic plan objectives in economic development versus employing and then actually doing some of that works. You know, for example, the economic development strategy has been on the list for the last couple of years, which we just haven't progressed because we haven't progressed the employment. So we can reduce that and just do what we're doing.
So the plan is to recruit in the next financial year.
Yes, yep. If we want to deliver those economic development strategies as a plan, or we just accept actually we're not going.
I was just wondering, right? So you're saying that it wasn't filled last year? Was an attempt made to fill it, or was it just not?
Just priorities wise, we didn't progress it.
Oh, okay. So is this carry forward money then?
Well, it would be a saving. I would think you'd do it as a saving and as an operational expense.
Yeah. So the previous, I think we did kind of we did reduce it down. You know, at the start of the year, we had it at 107,000, and then we reduced it down to like 11,000 in case we.
So as part of the budget review, we go, we're not going to spend that through Smoke.
Okay.
I was going to say you use some of that to top up the governance role, or possibly, or
well, we could
communications.
Yeah, we could reduce it to 0.6 or. There's 3 roles that we haven't progressed: the comms, the governance. We have to. It's just what that looks like: 1.0 or 0.6 or 0.8. Sorry. Then the comms and the economic development ones, which are 0.8s. So you can't get one person to do those roles, but you could look at potentially reducing what you do.
I think the economic development and comms could go together and be at just a 1.0 position. Like economic development and comms are.
I don't think you'd get a skill set to do both.
Yeah.
But you could have a total of 1.0 across those roles. Is that what you're saying?
Mm. Yeah, have someone be like, point.
You do a 0.5 and 0.5.
Yes, good either.
I just can't understand how we've had none and we use a little consultant company for $1,000 a month and then all of a sudden we need 4 days a week comms.
Yeah. Depends on what you want to do. We don't use our social media as two-way, whereas a number of councils to do that. Do it two-way. And internally improve how we operate and communicate. So we do it amongst our staff. It's just whether you want to enhance and improve that.
I still think line after line in the annual business plan, it says we understand the constraints of our community and we're trying to cut back. If we can, we should be cutting back. That's my 2 cents worth.
What are people's thoughts?
I agree.
What do you not want to do then?
Specifically,
Well, in relation to this.
I think the position that we don't have filled, putting it up there, to fill it when we haven't had that. I don't think we need to do that. The economic development at the moment.
Is it actually a realistic aim for council? I mean, isn't that more of a state government thing? I mean, there's only so much council could push.
Really an RDA thing, but we have pulled out of the RDA and we're saving 40,000 a year. And I think the idea when we put that up was, well, wouldn't we rather someone work for ourselves and make sure that we're getting the benefits? But from what I've seen from another council very close to us, is they pulled out to save 100 grand. And I think that area, when I looked at their budget, is spending more than $400,000 in that area. So sometimes doing it yourself doesn't always, and this is why my worry is that when you put it as 0.4, I'd rather like go half and see how we're going, see if it is helping, and then go, all right, let's extend it. It is doing a good job than putting someone in as a full-time position and then it not actually hitting the spot for our community.
Look, I think economic development is a key objective of council.
The comms is where I would want to save because, like I said, we're only spending $1,000 a month or something.
Yeah, and look, AI has changed that because we're doing some media releases internally. So, yeah, I would like the point is it is a strategic objective this council set to do economic development, and we haven't progressed what we said we would do because of sourcing, and we haven't applied. So. Depends on what you want to achieve or not. It's up to elected members.
Well, I mean, in the strategic plan, there's a climate adaptation plan in there that's been in there for year after year after year, and that's gone nowhere.
And that's because so that is progressing at the moment. So it's a slower than obviously than had anticipated, but that is actually being looked at.
Not just being three words on a.
So then, where do you want the resources to come from to deliver those things?
So I guess my point
you don't want to engage resources, so we're spread thin. So, for example, Garrett's doing more economic development than he would be normally because of that, and as Gary does as well, because we haven't had that resource. So that takes him away to doing other things.
I'm just sort of thinking of necessities, like I just really can't see why council should be expected to promote economic development. We shouldn't be a key driver of that. It's a state government thing.
It is in our strategic plan.
I know.
My point here was I didn't highlight or question the employee cost. I highlighted the economic development op expenses, saying why does it need to be increased by 13% on what we've spent? It's a lot again. Like we should be trying to keep the increases to CPI or the 3.64 rather than like if we're going to get a person in that job, what are they going to spend? That's another 30 grand or 20.
Yeah, if you had a position in that, that's probably you wouldn't be needing to spend operational expenses. So
that's
you could
right.
reduce.
So that's where
you can reduce that back to 40 grand or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What we spend this year. Maybe reduce that, but then have the position how we would look at climate across both budget lines. So the conversations around comms versus economic development.
Yeah.
So what was the comms point?
The comms I questioned because I know that is on our strategic plan that we'd have to be doing it, but I questioned the operation expenses that go with it because if you've got a staff, why do you need extra op expenses?
Maybe make that 40 grand.
Oh, sorry, that one. Yep.
The operational expenses.
Economic development. Yeah.
Which will be the budget, but potentially that can be the savings there. And then from a comms perspective, line was at 5.
So it's near CEO.
Yeah, it's on the top, line 29. What about putting that as 0.5 and then increasing the governance to 1.0?
Mm-hmm.
That Clive?
Yep. So I've got
0.4.
governance is full-time equivalent.
No, but you put one over government. We're only saving half.
Reduce the
0.4.
0.44.
Comms. 2 days.
And then governance to 1.0. And economic development, general ops to 40.
40,000.
There we are.
Item 845, there's an increase of a full-time equivalent for vessel maintenance and operations.
So, yeah, this is for 12 months whilst the review's finalised on the boats. Out of the tranche one review was identified as a operational risk that we didn't have technical knowledge in there. So that recommendation is to include that position, but only on a 12-month contract.
You sure you actually need it?
Oh, that was the recommendation from the report. We don't have any technical knowledge on staff.
Not in staff, but if the current staff worked with the people that do have the knowledge, you've got it all there.
So from my perspective, this is a massive risk for the business.
I just think it's a waste of money myself.
What are people's thoughts?
A lot of money. That's my thought. But that's it. I mean, we obviously need to have expertise. I'm not questioning that we need to have someone.
The comment is there's voluntary expertise, but it was identified out of the review, which went through obviously the committee and council, that there was a risk associated with not having the technical knowledge on it.
What's the risk?
Well, the risk is if you get some occurrence, let's say the person with technical expertise on a boat, there's a stroke or a heart attack or walks away or whatever, there's no one with the staff which would know what to do.
No fallback.
Then I think that's
So
when you reassess. If you're spending 170,000 of ratepayers' money just in case, like I'd rather that come to council when the guy has his heart attack.
If I go back and I look at the period of time that Andy was there, Andy kept saying, I know nothing about boats. I know nothing about boats. But with his consultation with the captains, the crew and the rest of the volunteers, even right down to the person cutting the wood, everything was achieved. You've got Katrina and Vicky. They know those boats backwards. And it's almost like you want to spend money on a person to do the job of the people you already got.
They don't have technical knowledge. And so the staff were consulted on that. The key message that came out of that review was that there wasn't technical knowledge and there was concerns around that from a WHS and risk perspective moving forward.
I just think it's a waste of money.
So, well, I can tell you what will happen if we don't look at employing that, and there will be, and this, there's concern that the risks associated without internal technical knowledge are too great for the operational staff.
You've got a 1.0. Is it possible it can be a 0.5 position?
Recommendation is a full-time position.
So what is this person going to be doing when the boats are all working fine?
Yeah. So it's about making sure that they're working fine.
I would see the position that there would be some documentation in place at the end of that, like you said there. Andy was probably over it, and he got to a level of confidence, but we didn't keep his head. He's left.
But what documentation do you need above and beyond AMPS's requirements for survey documents?
What to do in an emergency?
There's all the SOPs and all of that we've taken ages to build on. But what our tourism staff aren't doing is tourism-related activities as well, because they're getting dragged into the boats. So all of their, not all of it, but a lot of their time and effort goes into boat stuff versus looking at operators across the region.
It gets down to the point that they're they're turning a bit of a blind eye to WHS requirements because it's the boat. We've just got to be on the boat. The boat's got to go out soon. So everything else is kind of like, and then they look at it and they say, oh, we haven't done all this WHS thing. We haven't done checks that we should have done because the focus is so much on the boat and the schedule and getting the boat out. Yeah. It's a huge risk because, checks and balances they should be doing and probably not.
So you were saying this person you want to hire is going to do all that stuff.
And make sure that we've got the right things in place. So I can tell you that from an SMT perspective, we highlighted a number of WHS risks across the business because we are responsible, including obviously myself. And that was the number one risk to our business from a WHS perspective was documentation, procedures, things going wrong with the boats. Yeah. And making sure that all the processes were in place to ensure that we're reducing that risk and limiting things going wrong.
So you're confident that there's a full-time role there for someone, that there is enough
for 12 months at least, to ensure. So,
I mean, because we've been through this, my view is I would support what the senior management team are saying about the level of risk. You can always review it.
And so the other concern is that we appointed a tourism manager that didn't have any boat experience and a very capable tourism manager and has great ideas and initiatives to grow the tourism space, but doesn't feel confident, and it's not just about that role, about the technical expertise required to maintain now 3 boats. Not to say it's not out there in the voluntary space, but then there's requirements to do that. I'd be interested in your thoughts, Jen.
Well, I thought that it ran pretty well when we had the 3 of us there. I thought that was all covered with all the WHS stuff with the boats and everything else.
There's huge, no, I'm not saying at that time.
No.
But at that time, there was knowledge, there was boat knowledge in the business.
We were very onto it, yeah.
Yeah. But also, and with all respect, then that's where the focus goes onto the boats as well. And then there's the other parts of the tourism business that don't get dealt with.
This would be breaking it away from our tourism position of tourism manager would be left to then be more focused on other areas of tourism within our region, and there'd be someone who'd be specifically engaged for this health and safety and maintenance and of specifically just the boats.
Yeah, so and that's not to say, so there's staff that do help organise the cruises and the ticketing and components, all that. So there's resources that are utilised with internal.
Within both.
Yeah. Whereas the proposition is that this is the person that has some technical knowledge about liaising with the volunteers and the working groups to make sure the boats are running, plus all the WHS component of it.
I guess what you're saying with the technical knowledge, you're expecting them to have like what kind of certification of steamboats?
Yep. I don't know specifically.
Yeah, I don't know
what certificate it is.
What would our technical knowledge be required for it? Like that's what I'm wondering, whether we'd even find someone that had that degree.
Well, look, put it this way: it's up to council to approve the budget. This is one of the biggest risks we have as a council from a WH perspective with the boats and issues going wrong in that space. I would get rid of the economic development officer and the communication officer and have this for a 12-month process to see it. That's a purely risk-based comment from me.
Yeah. So really, and when you say technical knowledge, it could be someone that we're wanting that has the work health safety knowledge. It's a technical requirements we're requiring more so than necessarily boat-specific knowledge, because they could lean on volunteers for some of that wealth of knowledge, but someone who has a lot more understanding of health and safety regulations and all of that.
The review identified technical knowledge was the gap that we had internally, as in from a staff perspective.
I mean, given that we've still got the second tranche of the tourism review, sustainability review, and that will obviously pick up other sort of areas, like we'll look at the whole working in that review. So I think we'll have a better understanding then of what where the gaps are, and maybe sort of somebody from that tourism area, although they're already doing it, that it's more specified that that's what they do. I think we still, because we need to have that next part of the review, I think trying to understand putting somebody in that position to save on the other positions in the general tourism body when we haven't had the review of the tourism body. And I'm not probably being clear, but it's sort of, we need the information that we don't know. Because some of the queries that I had with Steve on, like membership or entry to the museum that hasn't gone up because that's all being reviewed. So we don't have that bit of information. So I think we need the second part of the information, which is the costing of the tourism, what we're doing in that tourism space, to understand, because they're not run separately, even though they are separately, because we've got staff in the whole lot. So we've got staff doing bits and pieces. But I think, once we get this review, I know it will take a while, but I think we still need that. I
hear what you're saying, but this is about what we are already operating, and we're committed to running it for another 12 months while we work out whether we can eventually, there's other bodies that are interested in taking over the boats. And so that's why the position is positioned for it to be 12 months, because of the original tranche one identified this was a gap.
So in other words, because this position is a new one, there's been a risk to council with the Marion and the Mayflower.
Huge. And as I said, sorry?
And nothing's happened.
That's why we did the review and come to that conclusion that we need to look at whether we keep these operations in council control or whether we know it's a risk.
And whether we can find the source of that person with that skill set as well, right? Like, that's my concern. It's like, we can say we are budgeting this line item for this position that we may not even have someone with, we don't exactly know because of what the technical skills they need to have for that role. It's saying that we have a gap, that we need technical skills on the staff, but yet we don't really know what those technical skills are and whether we will even find someone here that fills it.
No, we do. We have
volunteer.
We have a position description. We have.
Okay.
So we know exactly.
You know exactly what the technical skills are that we need them to have. And it's not like it's it's not like it's just specifically work health and safety or safety technical experience. It's more than that. It's steamboat knowledge.
Yes.
But you're like you're saying, it is someone we're probably going to be recruiting from our volunteer sourced for a role. It could potentially be someone who's already working on the boats, is what you're saying.
And it could be that they're only working on it for an hour or two a week because they have a full-time job and they might want to take this on to make sure future sustainability. Because I know you guys that probably are in that.
Sorry, but I know some of these might seem like silly questions. I know we did a whole review on it, and I know I'm just trying to get my head around the construct of
there's two conversations going on.
Sorry.
It wasn't against.
Is it just a 1-year contract?
It's just he's saying a 12-month contract.
Yeah.
So maybe just put that in the notes so that next year.
Already down.
One for yours.
Yeah.
Shall we have a break?
And
shall we eat on that?
All right, let's crack on. We're halfway through-ish. We've got some citizens with hopefully you've shook it up to try to get you through the next stage.
Sleep. Okay, Clive.
All right, I think we're up to row 1042. No,
1009.
983.
What?
Well,
not too bad.
Shit, clearly I did too low.
Yeah.
I should have.
Just a question on the maintenance budget for the dry dock. Yeah, and it's basically some contingent repairs. Normally, our guys get called down there every so often to do repairs. It's probably a ticking time bomb in the future. That major dollars have got to be spent on that. But item 993. Do we have a motor vehicle at the dock? Yes. So basically, it's a combination of the trailers that they've got using there, and also the 2013 Toyota Hilux bus 12-seater. That item number 1048. Just looking at the Canali budget, so that's been now. That will be increased to $112,300. With the Marion, it's a small increase from the previous year, $3,800 of budget. And the comment is now we've got competition between our different Canalian versus the Marion, I suppose, as well. And we're still saying we're going to have an increase of it. So the Mayflower, just an increase of $1,100 in the current budget. Item number 1076, should this be high considering we've already done this with 4 months to go in the financial year? So I looked at the projection. I think it should reach $30,000 for the current year, and that the budget should be set at $30,000 for the new year. So bump that up. Item number 1086. Arnold Gallery, now that there's a gallery a couple of doors up the street, that maybe we should be a bit more conservative with that, so I pulled it back to half.
That was just me proving that I wasn't just looking for.
There you go, very balanced, very balanced. Thank you, Mayor. 1,090, good point though. 1,090 should just be an income line to this to come from somewhere else. That's renewal. So what we do, we actually have, if you refer back to 1,058, we've got an account for Rockford's income. And obviously the slipping of that is still in its final draft of agreement, my understanding. Is that correct? And we haven't, just with Rockford's agreement, that's still not signed off.
Finalised, no.
Very close to though. Yep. So basically what we do is we budget each year for the amount of income which then goes to the investment account. And then that was just a general comment about the total line. Yep. Tranche 2 yet to occur. Item number 1,158, check for reasons high budget amount. So I'm still waiting. So we did a revaluation of our land and buildings as at the 1st of July 2024. Keeping in mind it was actually only completed in August 2025. So we're yet to get a new asset management plan from that. So there's some work about the different service levels that may be required on different buildings. So operational buildings, obviously you have higher maintenance. If someone's using a hall or an old house or something like that, and they're only there once a month, obviously you don't have the same level of maintenance. So what I've done is I've put the backlog from the old asset management plan, because basically we've only been drip feeding our maintenance, and the only real thing we've occurred lately was the building at the re-roofing of at Morgan, and I think there might be some work on some of the other buildings there becoming due soon.
Did I blink and miss and miss the Heritage and Maritime Committee total query line?
Sorry,
I didn't hear if you made a comment on Mid-Murray Heritage and Maritime Committee total.
Yeah, I've just got we've yet to do the sustainability review, and keeping in mind we've increased some of the income lines above there as well. Yep. But it's a tourism activity, and overall council is subsidising that.
We'll make sure that the new CEO has a KPI to get tranche 2 done for that.
It's going to the committee next week.
Yeah.
In council property. So what I've done is I've put the backlog of the current asset management plan, just to ensure that we've kind of got a liability that we haven't met, I suppose. Yep. And that may change with the new asset management plan. So expect that we'll get that probably within the next 6 months, and then we can actually alter the budget then.
So was there any funds to do anything about Pendle's tea rooms with the wastewater?
There's no specific part there. That would have been, and that's up to council to decide if they want to do anything with that. Yep. So it was the current asset management plan for land and buildings is to look after the buildings in their current state, I suppose. I'd actually have to have a look back at the asset management plan. Yeah, that's. Oops. Kind of sparked a memory that possibly we haven't got anything in the budget for the project, which was supposed to occur at Morgan either.
New funding.
Yeah, was it
Down money.
Downer money.
We budget for that.
Yeah, but we haven't spent that. And I haven't put it in the report to be carried forward either.
Okay, check that. The Downer money. Yep, which we had in our source budget at once. Carry forward, so we can carry forward.
We're going to carry forward.
Rectify that at budget time.
Six, correct. Okay, so now we're on to the Morgan Caravan Park. So item 1303. So the lease is currently being negotiated. It's perceived that there will be a number of items that need to be pulled up to the scratch as far as the Morgan Caravan Park. So what we've done is increase the Morgan Caravan Park maintenance pending a condition assessment. So that's why there's a considerable amount.
I've got an item in the agenda coming this afternoon.
Okay. The depreciation line there, I must admit, of only $22,000 is to do with this CMWS. I thought that was larger, quite a high amount from previous, and nearly $59,000 is associated with the building structure depreciation. So just to show you like how much assets and proposed of the depreciation of those, it's probably future burdens in, like keeping the caravan park, the assets which are responsible by council up to date. And as the overall comment for Morgan Caravan Park total, the major contribution to the deficit of 103,000 is the increase of depreciation of about 50,000, and that's been driven by the revaluation that occurred last year, previous financial year. Dog and cat control total. There was the introduction of $121,000 of full cost attribution, up slightly from $110,000. So historically, our dog control was about break even. So since I've rolled out the full cost attribution, shows that when you have all those support services, there's a lot. It does.
Loss.
Yeah.
So we should be factoring that into our income. It's not fair for the general ratepayer to be paying that much when they don't have dogs.
Yep. So that would be
Fees.
Done through the fees. Yep.
But too late because we've done it. But that's what I thought we were. I'm certain, definitely last year, but I'm pretty sure the year before we asked that area specifically to make sure that when the fees come to us, that they are looking at that, so that we are trying to make them.
They were, and I think as Clive said, that the FCA has.
But that's still 20 grand short.
Yeah, but I said that the times when we did that, the FCA figure wasn't known.
Yes.
Line 1,368, just asking what the parking general operating expenses there. There's, some vehicle towage, mobile phone usage, motor vehicle registration searches, and a bit of postage. So, line 1393. What does that line consist of? Basically, the year-to-date ticket machine costs $6,000, and a few $100s for the merch fees and a small amount for insurance and Telstra. So that's basically what the year-to-date figures are. Where we can go online, I'm not sure. Yep, that's something for that department's consideration.
So how much are we making an income for that ticket machine that's costing $6,000? Is it more than that?
So that would be like the income amount would be, as I've highlighted that line 1,408 would be the year to date 9,300. So, so you've kind of got the general inspection full cost attribution brings it up to like 12, and you're pulling about 9.5. It would be probably a little bit higher. It'd be about 10K. So
I think that's why I was just at the $10 per car.
Yeah.
Actually far too
Should be 20 at least.
Yeah.
And as I said this morning, obviously we'll do that review during next financial year.
Start of it, and then we just change it instantly.
I mean, we can bring that, when we bring it back to council.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Like waiting another 12 months.
Yeah. The fees and charges can be altered at any time. Line 1,409. To do general inspector employee cost. There's just a question about the positions there. The current, there was a contract that ends in 2027-28. Report was given to council authorise the next 3-year extension. So if council wants to make a decision, it'll be in approximately about 18 months' time that opportunity will come up. Line 1419, you've got general inspections operating expenditure. Year to date actual. The original budget was 5,000. It was re-reviewed to 25. So the year-to-date actual was 21. Was budgeted for in 2026-27. So I've got a increase of 2.9% on the current budget. So that would have just been the CPI. But because of the CPI, like all those standard ones, will be reduced from 2.9 to 2.4%. The latest RBA.
Year before, Clive, was only 5K. So what is the extra 20K? Is that another project that we shouldn't be adding it? This is where what I'm saying is once you add it to it, each year it just goes on there. Because when I looked at...
spent though.
No, but when I looked at 24-25, so 2 years ago, it was only 5,000. We started at the start of the year at 5,000. Suddenly we've added 20, and then we're now continuing to add that 20. But I particularly looked for 2 years ago because I wanted to see what it was 2 years ago, so that why are we just...
We increased it in this budget though. Review.
So do we need to, what was that for something special that's a once off that we should be, it doesn't say what that 20 grand
We could
is
find
for.
out what that was for.
Yeah.
I think that could come down.
We'll get
by law review.
That was
So that's done. So 20K saving.
Have a reason.
I'm worth my weight in gold.
Yeah, we've got $20,000.
Okay.
Line number 1483, item number. Illegal development general operation expenses. So when I look at the budget, the split is so 2024-25. There was actual legal associated expenses of 13,000. Past 5 years, lowest was it ranges from lowest of about $2,500 to a high of about $20,100 per year. So it's probably
Reasonable.
It's around the mark on what it does. Obviously, when situations get complicated, the expenses go up. Line 1496, environment, health, employee costs. There's a 0.4 full-time equivalent environmental officer, which is budgeted, which is presently vacant. So that's that point there. And the next line, 1506, environmental health general operation expenses. Does this need to be so high? I looked at the 5-year average. It's about $11,800. Lowest was about 5.9, highest about 27.3. Recommended budget of about 12, so I can cut that basically in halves.
We have the shared services with Murray Bridge for that FTE. So we have to at least line up with the agreement.
Yeah, so probably need to remove from him as employees to be contractual services. Yeah. Okay, line number 1551. This is environmental general operating expenses. Just a question about whether it's dark sky. 19,000. Why is it now 97? So what got in there is dark sky planning code amendment of $72,000 for the new financial year.
The motion was for that amendment to look for grant funding prior to spending.
It was always intended that, yes, we would continue to find grant funding to offset that cost.
I would like that taken out of the budget and then it come to council if you can't get grant funding and beg for it.
And particularly now that the board is going to be
doing that.
Yeah.
So the board won't be able to do that.
No, but they could ask us and then it can come to council. I think it should be a council decision. It's a big amount of money.
So it was brought to council for a decision on the basis that we've obviously explored all options through the commission, the minister, SACT. So we've obviously up until now have tried every avenue of funding and haven't received anything.
I don't believe we've ever agreed to funding it. That's the thing.
In the budget, wasn't it?
It was in the budget, lovely. It just got put in. We've never actually agreed.
We approved with the budget.
No, we asked about it this time last year, and we asked for savings to be made. We assumed that savings were coming off of that line, but they were just for savings. But we've never agreed to putting ratepayer money to a code amendment for the dark sky.
Wow.
But you didn't, sorry, just to clarify, you approved budget with the intention that we're trying to find savings for if we were to do it, we didn't do it.
Because we got it 2 days before in the council agenda and we didn't get this sort of discussion, and that's why the year before we'd asked for this. So now we're having this discussion. I'm saying I don't think it should be in there, but up to you guys if you agree or not.
Shouldn't be, honestly. It's not. I mean, it can be done in the future.
I don't mind it coming to council if we've tried for grants and we're not back, but I don't think a spend of $80,000 should just be slid into a budget without a discussion from council.
It's a lot.
So here's your discussion. So you're saying no?
I don't think it should be.
Yeah.
But it has been brought to council through the committee reports.
With the costing?
Yes.
Yep.
I don't recall seeing that.
Because it was actually specifically asked of me what was the rough cost estimate for a code amendment.
But was the motion, we approve $80,000 to go towards the code amendment?
I recall the specifics of the resolution.
If you don't want to do it.
But if there is, well then it goes in there, but if there isn't, I think it needs to come
There's
out.
streams we can get funding from.
I do remember in a dark sky committee meeting, it was quoted at being 70,000.
Yeah. That does sound fair. I think I remember that too.
If there's a motion that we've agreed to that amount for it, but if not, I think it has to come to council to be.
My understanding of the motion was that it would be approved subject to it getting funding. No, not, with
I think the wording was that we would explore every opportunity.
That's right.
I can't remember whether it was a council meeting or a committee. We'll check, we'll send you the motion.
Line 1,593. That was a level of expenditure which was included in the current financial year, 2025-26, and it was duplicated in the new financial year. So that budget line needs to be 0.
Yay.
Line 1642.
I just make a comment, 16009, that shouldn't be 0.
Which line?
The RPP, 1609.
But was that included in the carried forwards?
Was it?
Just have to check.
Sure.
We'll see.
The RPP is due to be delivered by March next year.
If so, the line underneath with the income probably needs to stay the same. We've obviously only got half.
Yep. It's going to carry it forward.
Yep, and then we don't know what amount to carry forward until we know the amount which hasn't been spent yet.
Line should be 0 and it comes through as a carry forward.
Yep.
And let me just check the carry forward.
Yep.
Housing strategy. In there.
How much?
10 grams. But that's different. That's not the RPP.
That's it. Yes. If that's the total amount of the budget of the project has been put into the previous year, we don't want to put it in this year again, but we want to make sure that it's carried forward.
Yeah, but I got the feeling that the growth strategy was carried forward, not the RPP.
Yeah.
It's not the growth strategy that needs to be carried forward, it's the RPP.
So we need to establish what is still left.
Yep.
The current budget should be 0 for the next year because the current budget for this year was 1.5 in, 1.5 out. So whatever we haven't spent of the 1.5 or received should be carried forward.
Yep. Great. Okay, line number 1642. Just a comment that just seems a little bit high, only spending $13,000 in previous financial year and $5,000. When looking at this, I've found that the majority of the budget was consultancy. Last 5-year average was about $11,300, highest 15.8, lowest 5.5. And I'm kind of saying, to recommend about $12,500.
So again, that's primarily due to the vacancy team, and now we're using contractors.
Line 1665, planning employee costs, once again, and this leads into your comment, but budget vacant position currently being filled by a consultant as a need requirement. So line 1676, $100,000 for growth strategy code. Less by 30.
The conversation we had when this report came up is that our position is that we're doing the growth strategy, then we need to invest in growing the region, would increase potentially rates that we will receive. We'll do everything we can, Gary, to find external funding and including developers.
Yep. So, I just received an email actually today asking what the contribution component would be based on the council's resolution. So once, as I said to the landowner, once we know the outcome of today or the budget, then we will be able to obviously start negotiating what their contribution.
I'd like that to be like the dark sky is 0 budget and do the negotiations with them, and then we come to council and ask for. And there is 2 streams in the federal for funding just for that kind of stuff.
And we'll be looking at those.
That has got a motion to put the budget for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I disagreed with it when it came up.
Council made that decision.
Yeah. But based on that, we'd try and find grants first.
And that's what the wording of that motion was.
Hey, you don't need to budget it. You come to council in 3 months' time to say, hey, we couldn't find grants. You've agreed to this motion. We now want to make a budget for it. Like, that's what we've agreed upon, that you'd try and find it and then you'd come to us and ask for a budget. That was my understanding.
Okay, then there was just a comment about the total planning assessment total. For them down to waste disposal facility Cambrai total. Yeah, just a comment there about can some of the waste management collection shows to basically transfer some of those expenditure. I was just thinking because when I actually create the charge, I actually I pull portions from about 4 different areas in the waste area. The waste management, the disposal, etc. I think it'd be easier for me to transfer some of the credit back, because if I do one expense, I'll have to pull all those other expenses from the different areas as well, going back into the waste collection area. So this chart of account was done before I was just prior to me coming here. I probably wouldn't do it this way.
Yeah.
And that'd be a big job. But part of the upgrade to ReadyTech, there's a built-in component in there for a review of our chart of accounts. Yeah, so that will be looked at. Yeah, and just to give you an idea, my calculations for 2026-27 was about $707,000 would be attributed to the dumping of our roadside rubbish. Yep. So then that would bring that down to $132,000.
Just because when you look at that line on the next page, it shows that we're making money from roadside waste.
Yeah.
Whereas we don't.
And yeah, probably the next line, which 1796 is a little bit misleading as well. Well, first of all, I think that it's overstated. Historically, when you look back, going back a couple of years ago, we had huge figures in there, and that was because we had the green. What's the state government which was funding the excavator?
Green Skis, yeah.
Yep, Giza was supplying us with cyclists to sort out all the rubbish from all the disposal. So we actually had quite a lot of steel. So that's just a bit of a hangover from the high amounts that we were receiving when we were disposing of that steel from the Canberra landfill. So I think, that's over that $33,000 for next year's overstated, and it should go back down to about $10,000 more realistically.
Can you please check whether the staff are still disposing of waste at YCA? Because YCA would only give us the income when we invoice them. So if we're disposing it there and they give the guys a little check, if they don't give it to Julie, and she puts the invoice. This is where I'm thinking we're missing out on income, because I used to have to follow that up every year to go, hey, we're missing invoice 2, 3, 4. I actually think there's more income there, especially because our transfer stations are used so much for recycling. I just don't think we're collecting it from the contractor. I think there's a little step missing. If you could follow that up, I think that would be great.
Right, keep cracking, Clive.
Yeah.
5 pages to go.
5 pages.
Line number 1894. That's just to do with the Madam Waters. Basically, the amount, the expenditure amount which has been budgeted is really just to get rid of the income.
That shouldn't be there because that's coming through as a carry forward.
Well, it's actually both. So we can actually, if it's carried forward, we can actually, and it wasn't a carried forward report, we can move that down to nil budget.
Well, in 23-24 it was 25k, so I think probably that's marine other, so there would be some boat ramp expenses there. I'd be happy to decrease that to 25k rather than go nil.
Let's just see what's 168. So maybe I did just review.
Just check, Clive, not now. Just you have a budget amount in there for what we need. Reduce the animals for the.
Okay, line number 1942. There was just a comment there about the level was $75,000 2 years ago. What I've looked at is the year to date and compared with previous years, and we're yet to pay our annual maintenance grants to Cadell Community and Tourist Association, and that reimbursement is approximately about $27,000. And then that will nearly make it back up to that amount. 7, 7, 5, 7, 6, 7, 81. Possibly there might be that in there.
20% over 2.
Sport rec maintenance, the majority of the increase over the year has been to do with over maintenance. So I tried to kind of get it down to whether it was water and electricity. It wasn't really any one of those. It was basically labour that we're pushing into that area. So line number 1994, Madam Leisure Centre operation expenses. What we've got for the new financial year, we've got nearly $12,000 for a fitness contractor, cleaning amounts $41,000, insurance $15,000, electricity $9,000. So that's the makeup of that. So the majority of it was the fitness contractor.
Is there income offsetting that, Gary? Or?
And double check that. I think there is, yeah.
Income's gone off for 13.
Yeah.
That should be the school income that we asked for them to be charged.
You check that, Gary, income and expenses.
Line number, item number 2045. That was the incorrect calculation. I think it was the last, there was issue with our spreadsheet where we had a casual sheet and then it didn't exist anymore. So what I've looked at the average of 2 years, and it's $28,400. I recommend that we put our budget $30,000 on that line. Income swimming centre for the Cambrai, just a comment about low year-to-date income. I'm just looking at the budget.
Just to go back to the swimming instructors, if we just, because of the motion, we've been opening hours different, longer. So if you can confirm, Gary, that 30 grand is what we're looking at. Yep. So Gary will come back to you if it needs to be. Sorry, Clive, to interrupt.
We've obviously cut out wages this year. Just the income, so 2088, Canberra Income Centre Other. Recommend the budget be about $11,500. And that includes last year we had a $6,000 income from the Department of Education, Canberra, the part of the agreement. So that's just incorporating that. Of the totals there, line 2100, open space Marianne Reserve Maintenance. So what I've done is, looked at the amount of labour which was put in against there. So what happens is when we've actually got, so we're going to have 3 more managers. So there's going to be about $450,000 additional costs, at least, probably with the vehicles, probably more like, pushing around the 500,000. All those costs then need to flow through to the other activities, and that's done through our overhead. So what happens is wherever we spend $1 in direct labour going on the outside services, we actually have an overhead amount which is associated with that, and the explanation of that is with our full cost attribution policy that council has, and what we do is we have about 100% or just over 100%, which gets allocated to those other costs associated with the depot, infrastructure, management, etc. So what happens is those costs have got to increase, and so to balance it all up, there's several areas where I've actually increased it throughout the budget. At line 2123, and that's basically the same one where we've had Morgan River expenses. So, yep, I've increased the budget through there. Line number 2177, should there be ongoing lease income summary of the RAA charges? I did track those down. So at the moment, the Truro annual fee, which is, these are excluding GST, 5,454, and the Morgan annual fee of 1,818, presently recorded against road income. So there is a bit of, either should possibly go to car park. I'm not sure whether you...
Pioneer Park.
Yeah.
Truro should have Pioneer Park. The other one's just road reserve.
If you did maintenance in where that area is, would you put it to car parks, or would you put it to reserve?
Reserve.
Oh, then I'll transfer it to reserve then.
Yep.
Just to make sure it's matching. Just make sure I've done that. Okay. Yep, and then there's an overhead. So basically, comment for total there. Line number 2245. Just doing a comparison for a couple of years ago. When I have a look at the expenses, water sewage is about nearly $64,000, electricity 12. And then there was an abnormal amount for a refund to the football club contribution for the Manum Oval Lights, which was in 2026 of $5,500. So because of that, I think that the new budget can be reduced down to around about $87,000. So
91.
Oh, sorry, 2245. Total general operations. Yep.
Can I just ask, I think you found when I asked you about the swing costs for Pioneer Park that some of the capital expenses went in there. Because I've said, only 43,000, why so high now? And you've talked about, the full cost attribution, 60,000. That still only makes 100,000. Have we taken, you've got general operating extra 24 grand, but I think your swing was in there. I just want to make sure
that was, Pioneer Park. Yeah. So there was a journal that I got them to raise, and maybe that's why operations. I'd have to look. Maybe just let me look at 2151.
I think it should only be about 100,000. We've got 138.
Yeah. So I've got a review 2026 actual X enforce and reforecast. Yeah, Yeah, so overall general operation expenses like 2245. I've just done analysis of what that's made up of, and yeah, we can shave basically 5,500 off of that. Income line 2265. There's some income there of $10,000. That was pay our way grant income received. So maybe the 2026-27 budget is probably a little bit too high. One way it's going to be resolved whether we spend the money or do something else with it. So I'd probably say we're going to get some interest, but let's probably make that half yet. February. Okay. That's just a total stormwater. An exclamation there. Sewer roads. And got the asset management plans. Line 2719, asset management general operation expenses. So basically, we have done a lot of revaluations, and probably what we've done is we're no longer providing spatial data, and we're not doing any condition assessments ourselves. So we're getting consultants to do that, and that's mainly because that position has only been partly filled with wins as well. Full time, yeah. All right. So yeah, the budget for asset management general operation expenses, which include revaluation, will fluctuate up quite a lot. So we've got roads coming up. Yeah, the reviews now. They're presently being performed. So. Yeah. And the employee costs, there's an increase on line 2708. So line 2805, there should be no private works, I agree, because we've got a policy on that. What we're just doing is whenever we do work for the houseboat pump house, which we're in agreement to do those. Whenever they need capital works, we actually just put in here so we can actually grab them and charge them 100% to recover all our costs. Because otherwise, the agreement is a shared percentage on any of the running costs of those. So we want to just include 100% of that. Same with income. Yep. That's just recovering it from the state government. Item 2828. There was a question, did we sell a mower to Blanchetown Sporting Bodies? I can't find a...
It was $500.
Oh, was it previous year?
It was last year. Yeah.
Yeah, not this financial year, the previous financial year.
I think it might have been the previous year.
And basically that area there is just driven by the amount of capex that we need to spend on our machine.
Not this financial year for.
Line 2832 seems a little bit high. I looked at last 3 years, they averaged 52,000 and I recommend like 60,000. So that'll be slashed by 35,000. CMWS, cost of CMWS. Oh, right. So we've got a sub-program there which captures the general operations. So basically the majority of the costs for our CMWS team falls in there, their vehicle costs, their employee costs, any minor plant that they have, all the costs fall into there. then what happens is whatever that cost ends up to be, then we distribute that across all the different schemes based on a per connection basis. So the answer is yes. That'll be distributed to all the different CMWS schemes and account against schemes to be recovered from that area. And I think, I would hate to say this, you may have finished. One more. Here we go. The little question right there. Yep. So there's a small amount of expenses in the flood response. So because we exchange a whole lot of data in this, we've given them hundreds, maybe 1,000 photos. I've just created a Dropbox share, and that costs $100 a month to operate that. So I've got a license for that. RIS has got a license for that, and a couple of people in the state government, and that's how we exchange a high level of data across there. So they would try and do it through SharePoint, but kept on failing it. So and they said, do a dedicated Dropbox and claim 100% of it, Clive, from disaster recovery. And I said, no, that's fine.
We've just saved $715,000 based on that conversation.
Okay.
There's a 0% rate rise, is that right? Great work.
Thank you, Clive. Thank you, Paul. All girls. Right.
You think seat that very comfortable long term?
So the next item is in conference.